Well, we're back one more time because apparently I've confused a few folks with this power supply and some of the changes we've made and where we've made them and how we've done it. So what I'm going to do, I don't want anyone to be confused on this, and we're in no hurry. There is no hurry to get this radio going until everyone understands who wants to understand what we did to the power supply and what it takes to build one. And I mean, that's the whole idea here. The whole idea is to help folks understand. If I rush through a video and they don't understand, then it was all for nothing, okay? Those of you who understand, not a problem. For those of you who don't, here we go again, folks. We'll get this thing right for you one way or the other. If we have to do it a third time, we'll do it a third time. It does not bother me one bit. I told you that we used some MOVs on the input of the power supply, which is the power cord, and that is right there, 170 volts. That's a 170 volt MOV. Now on the schematic, here's the schematic. I've blown the schematic up. That MOV would be across the primary right there. Okay, right there. The second MOV of 170 volts would be over here on the output of the second power transformer, which would be right here, right with those two lines coming down. Okay, you make them bigger so you can see them. Make them real big, real big. Make this one real big here too. All right, those are the two 170 volt MOVs. Now, someone asked me, are these two power transformers connected together? Yes, they are. As you can see, I wired them together using this terminal strip. You have to go back and take a look at it. The terminal strip would be, right in here someplace where they're connected together, right there. And this is the terminal strip. They're not connected actually across there. There's a break there. But anyway, that's how they're connected. And go back a couple of videos, you'll see how that was done. The next thing we did was add a 17 volt MOV across the secondary of this transformer right here, which would be this one right here. And that's that little green one you see right there. Okay, little green one right there. That's 17 volt. Now that one would go right in here. That's the green one. All right. The other changes we made, we put a Zener Diode on the output with the cathode, the end with the stripe, toward the positive end of the electrolytic capacitors. Now that Zener Diode is right here. We'll make that red. We'll make that big old pink red there. That's it right there. That's the Zener Diode. It's across the output after C2, after the second electrolytic, across there with the cathode end, the end with the stripe, at the same end as the electrolytic capacitor positive. Okay? The next thing we did is we added a resistor right here in front of this diode to cushion it. It comes right off the transformer, and that's this 500 ohm resistor I have right here. It comes off the transformer lead right here. That's the black wire into the 500 ohm. This is a 5 watt ceramic 500 ohm resistor, and we connected it to the anode side of the rectifying diode right there, that little black diode right there. And here we go. That's the resistor right here, 500 ohms, 5 watts, connected to the anode side in series with the anode side of the rectifying diode D1. All right, 500 ohms, 5 watt. That cushions that diode from being blown out whenever the power comes across. Now keep in mind, I told you in the last video that this MOV does do some protecting. But, we'll go ahead and leave that resistor in anyway, just for a little double measure. See it right there? Okay. Down here, the adjustment resistor we did it's R2 for the voltage regulator is 620 ohms. That's what that came out to be. That's a half watt resistor, by the way, half watt. And up here, R1, we changed it from 240 ohms to 1,000 ohms, or 1K. 2 watt. Now those of you who watched this in the beginning, you know that we did not use C5. We did not install C5. So we'll go ahead and wipe that right on out of there. And we'll get rid of that. Now, I will also, by the way, it was, brought up that I should install a fuse. Well, of course I'm going to install a fuse. Come on, guys. I haven't been in this 20 minutes. I'm going to put a fuse in there. We're going to put a fuse in there. And we're going to, of course, I'll put the fuse in after I get the all this stuff stuffed in the small box. And I've already bought a fuse holder. You'll remember, if you go back a couple videos, the stuff I bought at Radio Shack that day, I showed you each item I bought. One of them was a fuse holder. And that was why, because we're going to stick it right there. What we're going to do is determine the amperage pull of the radio. We'll do that probably in the next video. And then I'll add 50% to that, and that'll be the size of the fuse that we put inside the fuse holder. Okay? It'll be a 250 volt fuse. Probably going to only be about an amp. Maybe about an amp is probably all we're going to have. Maybe 3/4 to an amp. One more thing I failed to mention. This Zener Diode, I mentioned it in the last video, of course, but we'll repeat it here. This Zener Diode is rated at 91 volts, 5 watts. 91 volts, 5 watts. The schematic for this battery radio power supply, as a reminder, can be found on the Mississippi Historical Radio and Broadcasting Society. Mississippi Historical Radio and Broadcasting Society webpage. Or you can find it by just typing Mississippi Battery Radio Power Supply. Just type that and search that, Google that, Mississippi Battery Radio Power Supply. It'll take you right to this page. Now down here it tells all the parts, remember, and further down it tells you how you can change the value of this resistor right here, which is the adjustment resistor. And you can, right now we're getting this original design was for 1.5 volts out. When we used 620, it's now actually 4.5 volts. Okay, we changed it to 4.5. Now you can also increase it more and more and more by changing this baby right here. So go to this website, read about it, and it'll help you understand even more. Because now, one thing I want to point out, this is not a one-size-fits-all battery power supply. It depends on the radio it's feeding. So that's why we had to make a few adjustments. As I said, this was originally designed for 1.5 volt filaments. We need 4.5, so we had to make some changes. So you'll have to make some changes. And I don't know the answer to everything. You'll have to experiment, basically, like I did, along with Brendan, guiding me along. So that's the way it works, folks. I hope that pretty much clears it up. Any other questions? Remember this, I think the maximum voltage out of this voltage regulator, this LM317, I think the maximum voltage out is 37 volts. I think it's 37 volts. That's it. If there's any other questions, let me know. This is John.